In early 1991, in the quiet town of Namwon, South Korea, a man was found lying in a pool of blood. His abdomen and genitals had been brutally slashed open. When police arrived at the scene, they expected to find a strong, violent man behind the attack. But to their shock, the killer was a frail 29-year-old woman. She didn't run. She didn't resist. She simply looked at them and confessed, "I did it." What seemed like a simple murder at first glance was, in truth, a bloody revenge that had been brewing for 20 long years. Welcome to Red Eastern True Crime. If you want to see more crime stories, please like and subscribe. Let's dive into this story. Her name was Kim Bu-nam. She grew up in a poor village in Jeollabuk-do, living with her parents and an older brother. From a very young age she worked, helping with chores, carrying the weight of a family that had little. One day in 1970, when Kim was 9 years old, her parents sent her to fetch water from the well at her neighbor's house. The neighbor was Song Bae-kwon, a man of 35. In that era, a house with its own well meant relative comfort. Song's family was better off. So Kim took the bucket and walked to his house. She drew the water. Song suddenly acted unusually kind, even gave her a piece of candy. When she finished, he said casually, "Come inside for a moment and help me with something." She trusted him. She followed. He quietly locked the door behind her. Then the mask came off. He beat her. He raped her. That day Kim bled. She screamed inside but could only endure the pain. And when it was over, Song looked at her coldly and threatened, "You must never tell anyone what happened today. If you do, you will die. And your parents and brother will die too." Kim staggered home, trembling, dragging the bucket behind her. Blood kept seeping from her wounds. Her parents noticed something was wrong, but Kim, terrified that speaking out would bring death to her family, stayed silent. Even walking was agony. At school, her teacher saw the pain on her face and gently asked what had happened. Kim forced a smile, pretending it was nothing. "It's just a small injury. I'm fine." 10 days later, her wounds finally began to heal. She could walk again. But when her parents told her to fetch water from Song's well once more, Kim broke down, crying, begging not to go. To her parents, this sudden defiance looked like laziness. They scolded her. Her father even lashed her with a whip. No matter the punishment, Kim refused. She would never step into that house again. From then on, her behavior grew more disturbing. She ran constantly to the bathroom, wet the bed at night, woke screaming from nightmares. Sometimes she even fainted. She couldn't focus in class, couldn't play, couldn't talk to other children. Her grades collapsed. She was left completely alone. By the time she finished elementary school, Kim was no longer the cheerful child she had once been. She had become withdrawn, anxious, depressed. Kim's parents, watching her strange changes, decided their daughter was no longer the obedient child they once knew. So, like many poor families in that era, when Kim graduated elementary school, they sent her away, arranged through relatives to work as a maid for a wealthy family in Seoul. She was only 12. Every day was endless chores, scrubbing floors, cooking meals, washing dishes. But for Kim, there was a strange sense of relief. At least she was far from the neighbor who had destroyed her childhood, and her employers treated her decently. Kim worked hard, never keeping a single one for herself. Every coin she earned was sent home, used to pay for her brother's schooling. She never complained. She accepted it as her duty. In the 1970s, Korea's patriarchal order was absolute. Children were expected to obey. Women were expected to sacrifice themselves for men. Kim, like countless others, simply believed this was her fate. As she grew older, she began to dream of love, just like any other girl. But watching television dramas, seeing couples care for each other, she was struck by a devastating truth. She wasn't just beaten, She was robbed of the most precious thing a girl could ever lose. It was a crime. The wound she had tried to bury tore open again, and the pain dragged her even deeper into despair. The after effects of sexual violence, the fragile emotions of adolescence, and the long years of living as a servant in others' homes all weighed on Kim until she could no longer bear it. At 20 years old, she quit her maid job and returned to her hometown. She didn't realize it then, but those years working in Seoul would turn out to be the lightest days of her early life. Back home, her parents, like most families at the time, relied on matchmakers. Blind date after blind date was arranged. Kim had no expectation for love. She quietly accepted their choice and married a man she barely knew. She thought her marriage would be like that of other women in the village, a lifetime beside her husband. But the wedding night was doomed to tragedy. When her husband tried to consummate the marriage, Kim's childhood trauma surged back. The touch of a man filled her with terror. The moment he drew close, she recoiled, pushing him away in panic. For the first month she tried. She wanted to overcome it. But no matter how hard she forced herself, her body would not obey. Her husband, rejected again and again, grew furious. Kim felt crushed. She never wanted to be this way. Desperate to save the marriage, she finally took the risk of confessing. She told him what had happened 11 years earlier. Instead of comfort, he gave her anger. 11 years have passed, he snapped. Why are you still hung up on this? You're young. Why can't you just get over it? To him, it sounded like an excuse. The more he thought, the angrier he grew. He picked up the phone and called Kim's parents, revealing the secret their daughter had kept hidden for over a decade. Her parents, hearing it, hung up in silence. Fearing Kim would be abandoned, they brought her home, pressed her for answers. Kim only stared blankly at the sky, murmuring to herself. Soon after, they took her to a psychiatric ward in the city. Headaches, muttering, avoidance. The doctor diagnosed schizophrenia, prescribing a month of outpatient treatment. Under the doctor's gentle care, Kim felt kindness she hadn't known in years. Her condition improved. She promised herself she would live well with her husband. Back home, she even tried to initiate intimacy, but each time ended in failure. After several attempts, her husband's patience ran dry. Resentful and bitter, he demanded a divorce. Just 2 months after the wedding, the marriage was over. In the village, people mocked Kim, whispering that she had been cast out by her husband. But Kim didn't see it that way. She told herself she simply wasn't ready. She just hadn't met someone she truly loved. Determined to change her fate, she turned again to matchmaking. Months later, she finally met a man she could talk with, someone she actually liked. With hope in her heart, Kim stepped into her second marriage. This time, she tried everything to overcome her fear of intimacy. She asked married women for advice. She bought lingerie, put on makeup, tried to cheer herself on. But when her husband touched her, the past came rushing back. The memories of her childhood assault exploded in her mind. Her body shook uncontrollably. Cold sweat poured down her face, and when he pressed further, Kim broke down, collapsing in tears. She refused to give up. Desperate to preserve her marriage, Kim tried again and again. Eventually, they consummated. She even gave birth to a child, but her trauma never let go. Kim could not maintain a normal relationship. She could not even care for her child. Her mind began to unravel. She smashed the TV, insisting there were voices inside speaking to her and her husband. She screamed at neighbors. She fought them. She lived inside hallucinations. Her husband could not bear it. Quarrels erupted constantly, and through it all, Kim finally saw the truth. The assault she endured at 9 years old was the root of her misery. Until she faced it, she would never live a normal life. Once again, Kim gathered her courage and told her husband about the assault. This time, her husband did not condemn her. Instead, he said, "It wasn't your fault. You need to fight back, with the law." Kim clung to that hope. She searched local libraries, reading through the night. She filled notebooks with legal notes, determined to sue the man who had ruined her life. But reality hit hard. The statute of limitations had long expired. Unwilling to give up, she went to the police. The answer was worse. Under Korean law at the time, sexual assault cases had only a 6-month limit. Her case could never be opened. Despair turned into rage. She hated the man who hurt her, and herself for never escaping the pain. Her behavior grew unstable. Bursts of anger, constant tears, deep depression. Her schizophrenia worsened. She was hospitalized again and again. Even with her second husband, intimacy was haunted by nightmares. She would scream in the night, shove him away, sometimes collapse in seizures. Fights broke out. Money ran out. Years later, the marriage ended too. By then, hatred for Song consumed her. To Kim, every tragedy, every divorce, every breakdown traced back to that day at age 9. So she returned to her hometown. She stormed into Song's house, demanding an apology. But Song, now 55 and half paralyzed from a stroke, ignored her from his bed. Later, Song indirectly admitted his crime. He let someone send 400,000 won in compensation, about $550, to Kim's brother. A few days later, Kim discovered the truth. Her brother had secretly accepted the money sent by Song. Yet Song never admitted guilt. He never apologized. And no one, not her family, not the authorities, was willing to help her seek justice or condemn him. Her parents and brother urged her to let it go. Hearing this, Kim's faith in people collapsed. For 20 years she had carried the torment, only to realize no one would ever help her. Not her family, not the police, not the courts. Her life was already in ruins. If she wanted justice, she would have to take it herself. She could not wait any longer. Kim set her plan in motion. She went to the market, bought a kitchen knife and a fruit knife. At home, she cut apart an old handbag, stitched makeshift sheaths, and strapped them to her waist beneath a coat. In the mirror, she confirmed they were invisible. Over and over, she practiced the motion, throwing open her coat, drawing the blade in one swift move. She knew Song, though paralyzed from a stroke, still had strong arms from years of farm work. If she hesitated, if he managed to grab her or cry for help, she would lose her only chance at revenge. January 30th, 1991. Kim decided the time had come. She had to strike in daylight. Song's house was always locked at night. She waited until his wife left, then shouted from the doorway, "You must come to my parents' house and apologize to me." From inside, Song spat back, "I already paid. It's over. You crazy woman. Why are you here again?" Kim snapped. She kicked open the door, stormed into the bedroom. There he was, the man who had destroyed her life, lying on the bed. She threw open her coat, pulled out the kitchen knife, and slashed down without hesitation. Song screamed. Kim drove the blade straight toward his genitals. But Song fought back, surprising her with his strength, seizing the knife and cursing furiously. Kim didn't stop. She drew the second fruit knife from her waist and stabbed his abdomen again. His screams rang through the house. Neighbors rushed in, grabbing Kim from behind, struggling to wrench the knife from her hands. She fought with everything she had. Song's voice grew weak. "Hun, Hun, hurry, hospital." Before the ambulance arrived, Song was dead. Kim had taken her revenge. When the police entered, they found Song's body on the floor, and Kim standing calmly nearby. She did not resist as they placed her under arrest. When Kim's case hit the headlines, sympathy swept across Korea. Countless people pitied her, and many were outraged that the law had failed to protect her. Debate erupted. Should victims have the right to punish their abusers themselves? For many, Kim's act was the only justice left to her. They argued no one could truly understand her suffering, and that it was society's failures that drove her to this point. The law, they said, should have shielded her, not let the perpetrator walk free. On April 10, 1991, women's groups in Jeollabuk-do formed the Kim Incident Countermeasure Committee. They visited Kim and her family, attended hearings, met with judges, held press conferences, and called on the public to support her and demand leniency. By August 1991, the trial began. Standing before the court, Kim declared, "I killed a beast, not a man." In sentencing, the court acknowledged that Kim had developed schizophrenia after the assault at age 9, that her 2 failed marriages had worsened her condition, and that she suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder. They recognized she acted in uncontrollable impulse, a disorder of behavior, but because she had shown clear planning, buying knives, sewing a sheath, preparing 2 weapons, the judges ruled she was in a state of diminished capacity, not full insanity. In the end, Kim was sentenced to 2 years and 6 months in prison, suspended for 3 years, and ordered to undergo 1 year of medical supervision. She appealed, but every appeal was rejected. Instead, Kim was transferred to the Gongju Treatment Center, now the National Forensic Psychiatric Hospital, where she spent about 1 year and 7 months. On May 1, 1993, she was released. Kim's case, assaulted at age 9, taking revenge 20 years later, forced Korean society to confront child sexual abuse. In a country that prided itself on Confucian values of propriety and morality, such crimes had long been buried in silence. Perpetrators were often relatives, neighbors, acquaintances. Even when children dared to speak, few believed them. There was no system for investigation, no real protection. Victims carried the heavier burden, branded as tainted, blamed for what was done to them. Families believed time would heal, that memories would fade. Kim's revenge proved how false that was. Childhood sexual assault leaves scars that last a lifetime. Her case became a turning point, together with the Kim Bo-yoon and Kim Jin-kwon cases the following year. Together, they pushed lawmakers to create the Special Act on Sexual Violence. After 1991, Korea extended the statute of limitations for rape and sexual crimes from just 6 months to 7, 10, or 15 years, depending on severity. And if the victim was a minor, the clock would not start until they turned 20. The law was revised again in 2015. According to Wikipedia, Song Baek-kwon lived directly across from Kim's house. They saw each other often, which is why she had no suspicion at first. Even more horrifying, Song had a son Kim's age, just 9. The 2 families attended the same church, forcing Kim to face her abuser every Sunday. Song preyed on a child the same age as his own son, and even later showed no remorse, only contempt when confronted. When the truth of his abuse spread, Kim's family became targets of gossip and slander. They were forced to move again and again. Today, according to reports, Kim lives quietly in the countryside. What do you think about this case? Please leave your thoughts and opinions in the comments. Thank you for watching. If you want to hear more untold stories like this one, don't forget to like and subscribe.